Ugh. Well, the weather kind of messed up my plans for today. I got a couple things I can do inside. First is going to get this silver covered up with some carbon fiber wrap. Shout out to Eddie Lepis for on the how-to for the get this panel out. So I just want to add a warning to this section. Don't be like me. The tools I had weren't correct for this panel. I thought there would be enough to pop this out, but this panel's in there pretty tight. It takes a proper nylon panel removal tool in order to get it out without marring the crap out of it, because the plastic on the front is pretty soft. So don't be like me. Get the proper tool. Unless you really need to get into the shifter area if something's broken, then by all means use a screwdriver if that's all you have. So you're about to see me switch to a screwdriver. Even with some painter's tape on it, wasn't enough protection. Like I said, the plastic's pretty soft, so ended up marring it quite a bit. I ended up kind of fixing it a little bit, but that's going to be next week's video. But just a warning. I think I just need something with a little bit more stiffness to it, so I get some leverage on this to kind of pop it, because the other things I had would slide under there, but they had no stiffness to kind of apply any leverage on this thing. So I just covered a flathead with some painter's tape to try and cut down on any scuffing. It's not quite popping. Alright, looks like it's loosening. Finally. Yeah, so I scuffed up the bottom. Gotta be careful of that. You can see it's just 4 push tabs, so you got to kind of get some leverage to kind of pull it outward. Unfortunately, underneath of this took some of the brunt. But yeah, you want to be careful of that. Unfortunately, it took away more force. Alright, second part, get these screws out. There's just Phillips heads. So, this just lifts up way easier. Yeah, so you just pull up underneath. Get my camera over here. You just put your hand underneath. You can feel an edge right here. You just give it a little pull. This whole thing pops up. So that should take this edge open. And then this part just pops out as easily as you showed it. Just like that. So we're going to try and get the silver part wrapped up. So there were 3 more screws in the back for the silver part. One here, and then this one up here. I'm not going to attempt to pull the whole silver bezel out, because it looks like these tabs that they have here are kind of like melted in there. So they push them through and then they melt it to tie the back down. But taking the screws out at least gives like you can see they're kind of enough looseness to the edge so I can tuck the wrap around in there. It doesn't have to completely go in. I should be able to get it tucked around these edges at the bottom. There's enough flex there with the screws out that it will allow me to tuck it in. So, end of this roll. It's just wide enough to cover both sides. I also have to make a cut down here, get it on, make a cut out in the middle, and then just kind of tuck and cut where I can. Once again, this is just a solution of rubbing alcohol and water. Oils or gunk off it. If you're wondering why I'm doing this, I hate silver bezel inside of cars. This is thankfully not like a chrome. It's more of just like more of a metallic silver color than pure chrome. I don't know what it is about it. I just don't like it. Cover it up with something or fiber it. And that's what I want to do. Like I said, because this is in chrome, it's not as bad. But I figured to keep the look of everything else, I'd like to just kind of getting this. All right, we'll get the heat gun. Just checking there's enough overlap here at the top, so that looks good. I should be able to shift it over a little bit so there's more room up here on this end. So we kind of got it laid out where it wants to go. I got enough room on the top. Should be enough room on the lip here. The bottom is kind of flowing in one way. So now I can trim it down to So we're continuing just to work the edge in, kind of tucking it in along the seam, but this part was the part that separated pretty well, so there's a nice lip tucked in here, so I can just kind of cut along underneath. Sliding this along in underneath. kind of wrapped it around this edge. Doesn't have to be clean, just has to kind of get to the point where it's not going to peel up. So that's going to be tucked in underneath the panel. All right, so we're going to continue cut this around here. I'm going to need the light again. So I'm kind of wrapping around here, going around the edge, cutting and tucking in the little lip, wrapped around on the inside here. Cut a little bit where it's kind of overlapping on the tabs. This doesn't have to be all that neat. And this part was a little bit more challenging because of the curve here. So we're just kind of, I'm just trying to be careful not to bend it too much and just kind of pushing it down with my fingers. So you can see I get it conformed around the edge here, getting a little bit of a wrinkle up here. I'm going to work that out as I get more towards the top. And I'm worrying just about the bottom part. So it's laid pretty flat so far. And I'm just going to start cutting around this edge here again. Just kind of tuck it with my fingernail to kind of get a little score mark. And then I'm just going to cut this little bit of lip off here, wrap it around underneath. And then we'll move back up to try and work at the very top curve here. So continuing to do the same thing, just tucking along the line, cutting underneath, and just been moving this with my thumb, forming it up. It's getting a little wrinkle, I just kind of pull it back a little, fold it over, pushing down in. I did make one little stress cut here where it was kind of bulging out just to tuck it in the edge. Once again, this part should be tucked in underneath. Shouldn't be visible, so sorry if I had a little cut there. Doesn't have to be super neat down around the edge here like this either. Just enough to tuck it over. You can see like that, just tucking it over. Get a little wrinkle here. I'm going to keep working my thumb over that, just kind of stretching it a little bit. Nothing too hard, just enough to get the wrinkles out. Because I don't want the, you can see the carbon line, the grain that it has. You don't want to like move and get all wavy if you're bending it this way and that way. You want to kind of keep pulling it in one direction. This part I'm just basically laying it, so it shouldn't really be changing its direction. But once we get up to this curve here, that's the tricky part. So I'm just kind of doing the same thing, just pushing out my thumb, pulling it back, working the wrinkle out, pushing it down like that. See how the wrinkle comes out? Same thing up here, just pushing it down with your thumb. Line here where it's stretched, but there's a curve. But I'll just cut down, cut around, that'll take it right out. And just fold it over like this. And that should all tuck in. Just gonna check this part again with the light so I can see, make sure that these aren't too crooked. All right, so we finished this top part, got it all worked in. Just kept molding it with my thumb, tuck the wrap up underneath, just kind of cut it off. Kept doing the same thing along this edge, using my tool to tuck it under here, kind of bend it. So you just kind of tuck it in. Make sure there's some extra on the end here so I can pull that in as it tucks. And then I was just taking the blade and would just slip it in along that edge and just cut underneath. Now I'm just going to hit it with the heat gun a little bit. Of these edges, make sure they're all laid in there. Nothing's peeling out. We'll see how it settles over time. This is all kind of a learning experience, but you know, for the most part, it came out all right. Let's go stick it back in the car. everything should snap back in. Just like that. Handbrake boot back in. Make sure to push down right here. Snap back in. Everything should be back in now. We got our 2 screws. Alright, so it's the next day. Now we have some sunlight. Here's the finish wrap on the bezel. It came out pretty good, I think. I would have preferred not to have mangled the inside of here a little bit, but did what I could to push the parts that got bent out a little bit back in. So it's not too bad. I just know it's there, which bugs me, but if anyone else was in the car, I don't think they would even notice.